stewardess said both pilots.
Can you rank this plane and land it?
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
What is up? Welcome into Adjust the Ranks. Do not call me Shirley. Instead, call me Jeremy Schulman at FF_Rebel over on Twitter. This, of course, is Adjust the Ranks. We're going to try and land this plane today with a half PPR mock draft for you to get you ready for your real drafts that are coming up very, very soon here. So first of all, this is part of the FFU, the FU ×2, the Fantasy Football Universe 30 mock drafts in 30 days. And of course, we've got a bunch of different styles of drafts that we've been doing here. Looks like we're going to have to do a guillotine league draft in a day or two and talk about that. But we just came off yesterday of an ESPN platform mock draft. Please go check that out if you haven't seen that already. We did the Yahoo platform. Of course, we've been using Sleeper all along. What is it? August 13th, we have 13 mock drafts already in the barrel, ready, locked, and loaded for you to check out, both on Twitter at Fantasy Football Universe, also on our YouTube, which is where all of these videos kind of end up. And of course, if you want to join us in our mock drafting, you can always follow along. The mock draft link is actually in this YouTube chat, so you can check that out as we just kind of wait for people to join. We're about halfway full here. We'll get full in a couple of minutes. As we wait for that to happen, there's a couple of orders of business to take care of. First of all, we're going to take care of, if I can find it here. There we go. We're going to take care of some personal business, the Fantasy Football Universe Discord. That link is also in the chat. You can join up and chat with a bunch of guys. Myself, S.C. Romero, Dynasty Dogs, Rich and Mike, Spencer Buckley, and of course, Jesse Moeller. All of us are in there chatting ball all the time, in addition to about 60 of our closest fantasy friends in there. So please feel free to join us. Link in the description of this video, but also in the YouTube comments. The other thing to consider is we have a promotional code for you on Fast Draft. If you haven't checked out Fast Draft yet, it's a lot like Underdog, except they do drafts that are even faster than Underdog drafts. They do large scale and smaller scale tournaments, and you can get 100% first time deposit match of up to $25 using the promo code FFU. That's enough of that business. Let's start talking about some NFL business. And there's Jamie. What is up, Jamie? Thank you for joining us. As always, mock draft linked in the chat. It is half PPR, and we'll get started here in a couple of minutes. But the first thing that we want to talk about is James Cook finally signs his deal. It's 4 years. It's $48 million, $12 million per. I haven't checked out the exact details, but I imagine it's front loaded, as most NFL contracts are. But the biggest thing there for James Cook is $30 million guaranteed. That locks him in to Buffalo for their starting running back. We were concerned a little bit, and we did see this reflected in his, early August, late July ADP. The fact that, he was slipping a bit. He fell to the middle of the fourth round, sometimes early fourth, sometimes late fourth. James Cook should not be going there. Scored 16 touchdowns last year. An absolute beast. Is he going to get to that level? Probably not this season, but double-digit touchdowns is all but in the bag for James Cook. So love that deal for him. Love the fact that he's going to be practicing and on the field. So absolutely James Cook a stud, and getting more money than Kyren Williams. Kyren Williams, I believe, was averaging $11 million per year. So, James Cook got the bag. Deserve the bag. It's fantastic news. Some other news here, minor news. Kayshon Boutte is getting some hype in camp. Patriots wide receiver. It looks like he's going to make the team. Is he going to make a difference for fantasy? Probably not. He's more or less a dynasty stash, but that was looking good today. And then, of course, we got a lot of guys who we're very happy with. Devon Achane, Drake London, guys who are going to go early in drafts. Personally, I just fired up and fixed the spreadsheet for my home keeper league today. I'll be keeping Achane myself for a 6th round pick, McBride for an 8th round pick. Very happy with those values. But if you have any questions about, fantasy football, you can always join the Discord. You can always DM us as the FFU or myself at @FF_Rebel and check us out here. And of course, check out all the different mocks to make sure that you get the mock that applies to you and your needs. We're going to fire this thing up in just about a minute. Let's scroll the banner here. What we're doing is we're doing one position and then a bunch of flexes. So it's going to look like this. In fact, let's add it to the stage now. And my sleeper app wasn't working for some reason because... Let's see, because I don't know why it wouldn't let me cast it here. So we're on the true desktop, not the app here on my laptop, but it is what it is. But you can see what we're working with. We got 1 QB, 1 RB, 1 wide receiver, 1 tight end, and 4 flex positions. We're just going to make things a little bit more interesting here, just to kind of play around with what we can expect from, position agnostic type of draft. These sorts of things are interesting. For example, a Scott Fishbowl did, I think it was 9 flexes and 2 super flex positions. It's very interesting because you get to build your way. You don't necessarily have to fade running back, although you can, but it doesn't necessarily give you the advantage that you would hope for. Really, you're more or less just picking the best players here. So we'll go 30 seconds for the mock. I don't know if it's going to fill. We're trying here, but I'll give it about 2 minutes. And if it doesn't, we're just going to have to hit go. And in fact, let me just tell the chat here. We'll say 2 minutes and we'll start. Okay, so let's take a look at half PPR at some of the things that are of interest. You see Jamar Chase, he is the 101 here by ADP, 102 technically, but you see that Saquon, Bijan, all these guys fall well below where Jamar Chase goes. It does not matter what format you're drafting, half PPR, full PPR, tight end premium, whatever, dynasty, unless you're going super flex, you should be going Jamar Chase at the 101. I don't think it's even particularly close with how bad that defense is. Bijan Robinson, I'm not going to fault you if you go Bijan the 101. If you really want to bet on Barkley, kind of trying to do it again, sure. I don't hate it. Jefferson, Gibbs, CeeDee Lamb, those are your top 6. Whatever order you really feel inclined, although I think Jefferson is the clear 106, just given the changes to Minnesota. Of course, the focus on the run game, which is what we all expect there. But Justin Jefferson is great, and he is going to overcome no matter what happens. You can see we're filling up here. We have 2 more slots ready to go. If you are following along, the link is in the chat. You can jump in quickly here at the very end, but doing our best to fill nearly there. All right, and we'll get there. And yeah, I mean, that's about it. We got some preseason. We got a couple days till preseason starts coming up, but certainly, your draft is coming up soon. So let's fire this thing up. One more person to get in here, and then we will click go. Doing my best to fill it here on the Sleeper app. But of course, you can just follow along and get alerted whenever these drafts are ready. We're doing one a day, usually in the early afternoons here because I'm over in Amsterdam, and it's hot as balls here as well. But we will get this full. We are full, and let's fire it up. So once again, we are half PPR. Let's get this in my ear holes here. We are half PPR, and then we are kind of position agnostic. As it says, we just got onesies at every single position. We'll throw that banner off, and we'll take a look at what's going on here in the mock. So Jamar Chase at the 1, no surprise. Bijan at the 102. At the 103, I would expect Saquon, but you could get Gibbs. You could get CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is really buried here at the 7 in ADP. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me why he's sitting there. He's my wide receiver 2 on the season, and it's not all that close. I could see, yeah. And so there it goes. I could see, somebody falling in love with like a Drake London or Brian Thomas Jr. Or Malik Neighbors, and you're saying, that's my 102, even Jefferson. But you just don't need to take those guys up there. So if you're at the top of the draft, I think lock in the safe floor with the safe ceiling. Chase, Robinson, Lamb, Barkley. Those are my top 4. Gibbs is right in there. I actually have Gibbs above Barkley, but this is half PPR. So really, it's pick your poison there. At the 105, I'm going to get
Come on.
Gibbs. We'll see. It is Gibbs here as we get the auto draft. These are the top 5. I mean, I don't think there's a really good argument to shoehorn Justin Jefferson in above these guys. If you want to take Amon-Ra St. Brown at the 106, that's not for me. I'm a big Jameson Williams believer and a Ben Johnson believer, so he's out of town. So I just think Amon-Ra just takes a slight tick down. It's no, slight to his ability as a receiver. But the Detroit Lions were one of the best offenses in the league. I think they ran the second most plays on the season last year. And all of those mouths, with the exception of Sam Laporta, who did well, but did not do what we kind of expected him to do there. If you look at how the rest of this is shaking out, you got Amon-Ra at 6, Justin Jefferson at the 107. I like that value. Malik Neighbors at the 108, CMC at 109, on the clock at 110. It's really a good discussion here. Nico tends to be someone who is climbing up boards. Puka is there. Genti is there. Derrick Henry, I really love in half PPR. I'm tempted to take Achane, but because it's half PPR, I'm going to take a back, and I'm Henry stay healthy. But at the back half of drafts this year, Achane is so tempting. We had this question the other day. This was actually at AMA. Devon Achane or Ashton Genti, half PPR. I want Genti. I just think there's safety in that ceiling and that floor for Genti, where Achane, we saw what happens when Tua gets healthy, when things kind of run away from him. And we also know that Tyreek Hill didn't have his best season. Model this season, a lot of injuries across the board there for that offense. Now that defense is terrible. I do want all of the Dolphins I can get, but I will take the upside of the rookie over Devon Achane. But it's real close. I think half PPR kind of tips the scales for me there. Mute the sleeper sounds. I would love to mute the sleeper sounds. Can I do it like this? Boom, done. Good call. Appreciate you. Sleeper sounds are muted. Sorry guys. Listen, technology not necessarily my strongest suit here, but we figured it out. So Nico 110. I took Derrick Henry at the 111. At the turn, Team 12, Puka Nacua and Brock Bowers. Gotta love Brock Bowers at the 201. It's half PPR, so I'm not necessarily smashing his value in the first round. Early second, though, I think that makes sense. I'm not necessarily going to take him at the 202, but really after some of these running backs are gone, at the 204 and beyond, I think the value on Bowers is insane. We've been seeing this all off season long, where Brock Bowers is, he's kind of going a little earlier than most people kind of want him to go. He's usually gone before the 2.6. Sometimes he'll last to the 2.8. But really that's where I'm looking for Trey McBride. You see him as the top name on the board here. But the Trey McBride right now, if you look at where he's fallen here to the 3.4, he's a value. But the real value that I want is might be coming back to me, depending on who's listening here, is tight end 3, really tight end 1 in our hearts. And on the board last year is George Kittle. I just think he's a phenomenal value at the back end of the 3rd, early 4th round. And for myself, if I'm getting 2 running backs and a tight end early here in a redraft league, I'm very happy with that build from the back half of the 1st round. So let's look at the board and see what shakes out before we get to my pick. We've got Drake London at the 2.3, Brian Thomas 2.4, Devon Achane, AJ Brown, Josh Jacobs, Josh Allen at the 2.08. A little early for me in the 2nd to get a quarterback. If I really want a quarterback, I'll wait till the 3rd. Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, Ladd McConkey, and Jonathan Taylor. In the 3rd round, you got Lamar, Kyron, JSN, Trey McBride, as we talked about, Breece Hall, T. Higgins, and Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill falling a little bit, but he's back at practice. He's healthy. He's just too risky. Jalen Waddle is the guy that I want in Miami. Devon Achane as well. I just think Tyreek Hill might be a little bit more boom bust than we want him to be. So no thank you on Tyreek Hill at value. Who would I prefer? Amarian Hampton in that spot. James Cook is still on the board, who is someone that I may take. We'll see if it gets to that. But I think because I have my two running backs locked in, I think I am going to go George Kittle here, but we will see who's available. The running backs, if you look at it, I'm not excited about after Achane. I'm not excited about Josh Jacobs and Jonathan Taylor in the second when I could have Irving and Brown, but those guys often fall to the third round. So now that George Kittle's gone, I think James Cook is an absolute smash here, so I'm going to do it. You see who you can get in the third, right? Kyron, Brees. Brees is a little high for me. I'd prefer him in the fourth. I think he will fall there eventually. Hampton and James Cook. Now I'm looking around. I don't have to take a wide receiver here, and I am going to fade Marvin Harrison. Kenneth Walker is my guy right there. Chuba's available. Kamara was available. You see he just went. But outside of those two guys, I think it's Kenneth Walker pretty clearly. The fact that I can end up with a Henry, Genty, Cook, Walker team. Remember, we're position agnostic here. So I got one running back starting. We got three flexes. Running back is a problem for me because my real concern about running back is last year was one of the healthiest seasons for running backs across the board in over a decade. We know that we've been, 2 or 3 years ago, it was 0 RB or hero RB. And this is what's kind of trumpeted from the rooftops because, running backs get injured a lot and they don't necessarily play every single game. Last year, we had a crazy amount of wide receiver injuries mixed with, to top guys, by the way. AJ Brown missed a lot of time. Puka missed a lot of time. You can just go down the board. Cooper Kupp was a value who just missed, just fell off completely. A lot of those things kind of conspired at the wide receiver position. In addition to every single top running back was healthy, right? We had fears about Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley. They were going to new teams, but are they going to be able to stay healthy? And they didn't necessarily get the amount of money that they were supposed to get on their new deals, and they absolutely crushed, but mostly because they stayed healthy, right? So going with 4 running backs at the start, a robust RB build is not necessarily recommended because it's more fragile, because these guys have the potential to get injured, and we have to kind of take a broader view than just one season and look at what happened beyond last year. Kenneth Walker, he is an injury risk, right? This is why he falls this far. The talent is insane, but he's got hip and knee and ankle and all sorts of shoulder, all sorts of crazy injuries for Kenneth Walker. So groin, I think he's battling with right now. So we hope he's healthy. Derrick Henry, has been the outlier in terms of injuries. So hopefully with Henry, with a rookie, with Cook, who's been taking the whole offseason off more or less, waiting for that contract, and potentially a healthy Kenneth Walker, this squad is very talented, but we have to kind of hope on health. You see here, though, I have not walked away with the top 3 tight end, which is really what I've been looking to do almost every single draft. But I did want to pick from the back end because if you miss on Bowers at the 201, which at the 202, maybe I wouldn't have taken him, McBride doesn't fall back to you, and Kittle is starting to creep up a little bit to the point where he's just not making it necessarily to the back of the third in every single mock. So it's something to worry about. Sorry, it's not something to worry about, but it is something to keep in mind. Kittle might not be there for you at the end of the third. If that's the case, where will you pivot to? Start thinking about that. Now, here's something we've been talking about all along. And this goes to Jamie's point here. I usually don't go early. So Jamie's drafting from the 1, usually don't go early QB, but wanted to try the build. And he's saying he's stacked. Did he stack? No, but he got the number 1 wide receiver in Jamar Chase. I think he's damn near a lock to be the 1. And then Lamar Jackson is the number 1 quarterback. He's my number 1 quarterback on the season. I do think he beats Josh Allen this year. Jaden Daniels is a dark horse in that regard, but yeah, I love it. Let me take my guy here, and then I'll take 2 of my guys here. I'm not going to reach on tight end. We'll talk about these guys in a minute. George Pickens, I do like. I think his value is good, but I'm keeping my money where my mouth is. my mouth where my money is, whatever it is. And I'll take Jalen Waddle. We'll talk about that in a second. But we were just talking about quarterbacks. Yeah, I don't like quarterback early either. You see what Jamie's done. It's going to come back around him pretty quickly right now. He's taken Lamar Jackson. He's taken Sam Laporta. He's handcuffed himself a little bit with early quarterback and early tight end. It's not that you can't get out of this situation, but you're going to see, and we're going to go over it. Team 12 is the same way with Bowers and Daniels. These are great players. There's no issue. Certainly you want those players, especially if you have full-on onesie positions where you have 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers. It's great to have that advantage. The problem is you're going to have holes elsewhere. This is why the 0 RB build was so appealing to me a couple of years ago, because you see the value I got on running backs here. The value was at wide receiver. So you would just stack up on wide receivers. You get like Adams in the 3rd and T. Higgins at the 5th, and you'd get Puka in the 2nd. And so like the value at a wide receiver, you just pile 5 wide receivers on there. You sneak in a quarterback and a tight end, and then you've got everything but running back. You just need to fill those holes and hope for kind of injury so that those guys who are going in the double-digit rounds just come up and have value for you, and then you win. Right. We saw last year with the health issue that we just talked about a few minutes ago, that didn't transpire. So if you did 0 RB last year, which we were not advocating here at the FFU, but if you did go that route, you struggled. If you went hero RB and picked the wrong hero, for example, I'm trying to think who was going really early, who had a bad season. I don't know, not too many bad seasons of the top backs, which is why we're talking about it now. Jonathan Taylor, he won you your league, but maybe you did not get to the playoffs if you had Jonathan Taylor. So that's a good example of a guy who potentially could have hurt you. And if JT was your 0 RB or your hero RB guy that you were relying on, could have been a problem. But we're here talking about quarterbacks. And the issue there is if you go quarterback and if you go tight end at the top, you're really kind of leaving a lot of meat on the bone. So what I like to do is I like to get one of those top 3 tight ends. I really like the tight end value later as well. So I've been getting like Bowers or McBride if I'm drafting in like the early 2nd, the early 1st. I'll come back around with a tight end here, and then I'll like grab a Evan Ingram or a Tyler Warren later. I really like that as well. Like right here, for example, this is a really good spot that I'd probably consider Evan Ingram, and where I'm looking at the board, other than maybe Steph Diggs, Pearsall is a good option. I'm going to grab Ingram now and just hope Pearsall falls to me. He does. He's probably the guy, although Matthew Golden and Diggs are both interesting to me here. I don't need to force it, but I'm certainly not going to go with a quarterback at the moment. I will pick Egbuka is there as well. That's a tough one. I really like Egbuka. I'm going to go with Egbuka. It's not early for where he's been going. You see his ADP is not there. He's been creeping up into the 8th round over the last few weeks in these mock drafts. He started out in the 11th. But really, Chris Godwin, right, the 2nd ankle surgery, that's been an issue. Egbuka just getting every single, camp hype bit from every single beat writer that you possibly could, is really just too much for me to ignore here. If you want to go fellow rookie Matthew Golden, I have no issue there. If you want to go Ricky Pearsall, I have no issue there. And Steph Diggs, I think, is a really good option. But the point here is in these middle rounds here, really from rounds 3 to 8, 4 to 8, I'll say, that's where I want to start stocking up on running backs and wide receivers. Let's see if I can get this lower. Yeah, I can. That means I gotta jump in the draft on the phone. 1 second as I'm on the clock. Gotta love the dead air. Let's see. Quarterback is a good shout here, especially because I don't love anybody. All my wide receiver targets went. So we will reach slightly on a QB, but it's not a reach for Justin Fields in this area. I love Justin Fields here at value in the end of the ninth round. Are you kidding me? I will happily take him. And then looking at my wide receiver options, I have Rashid Shaheed, Luther Burden, not a huge fan. Keon Coleman, I'm warming up to. But there's a couple guys. Yeah, there's my guy. In the 10th round, give me Tank Bigsby. We'll talk about that in a moment. I was looking at Scatabo as well, but Tank Bigsby for me. What are we doing here? We got to turn my phone down. Too much noise everywhere. So, yeah, to finish up that thought, I really just think that so rounds 1 and 2, you are taking best player available, right? I do not think that you should reach on a quarterback in rounds 1 and 2. If you really want to get your guy, I can understand it. That's just not a strategy for me at quarterback. At tight end, if Bowers or McBride are there and you want to absolutely smash tight end, I have no issue with that. I wouldn't take Kittle in the second because you can wait until the third to get him. You see he lasted to the 310 here. He sometimes goes through to the early fourth round. So that's a value game, right? But you're taking the best players available. Then you have your options from rounds 4 to 8 to really just load up on running back and wide receiver. Here, because I didn't get early tight end, I took my favorite tight end at the 7-11. Ingram has been falling to the 8th to the 9th round sometime. You see Tyler Warren here, which he may be just as safe as Ingram, maybe slightly less because of the quarterback situation. But I really do like Tyler Warren's value. If you believe Loveland gets the work this year, I don't necessarily believe that, but I do believe in the player. I mean, he's a great value, and there's still a few tight ends on the board. But my point is, waiting on tight end, you can still get Andrews, Ingram, Kelsey here in the 7th, 8th round. You can still get a guy like Justin Fields here. At the end of the 9th round. Why would you, go after and spend that premium capital on a top quarterback? You're playing it safe in that case, and I'm not necessarily going to do that. Because I waited late quarterback, and I don't always like to do this, especially in like a singleton type position, but I will take a guy like Drake May. I'm also going to stack him with what could be his number 1 target and Pop Douglas. I love that value there. But yeah, I do like taking 2 quarterbacks. You can wait on Justin Fields. If you take Justin Fields or Drake May, take one of those guys, switch in a position player and then take Anthony Richardson in the final round of your draft. I love that strategy because Richardson's a guy who is going to hold the job, is going to look great when he's playing in terms of the fantasy points he scores. And if he looks good enough to stay on the field, which is your hope, then you have a quarterback 1 for your season. If he doesn't, Daniel Jones mixes in. I'm not doing this in single quarterback, but in Superflex, taking Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones as your QBs 2 and 3 is an interesting strategy that I do like as well. But here with Fields and May, I feel very comfortable with that, especially because once again, we're position agnostic. Let's open up the board here and let's check out the rosters. And our draft is, I think we're done. We are done. So let's take a look at what I ended up with, and then we'll go through the board. If you have any questions and you're following along, please feel free to throw them in, especially if you want to talk about certain players or player values based on what's on the board. And I'll open that up in one more second. So Justin Fields, Derrick Henry, Jamison Williams at wide receiver. I've got Evan Ingram, Ashton Genty, James Cook, Kenneth Walker, and Jalen Waddle. My bench is Emeka Egbuka, Tank Bigsby, Drake May, and Demario Douglas. Very happy with this build and how it, don't want to convert this to a league. What are you doing to me, sleeper? I'm very happy with this build and how it shook out, especially since I don't need to worry about starting 2 running backs each week or starting 2 wide receivers, in my case, each week. But of course, after a few more rounds, usually most of your drafts are going to go 15, 16 rounds. If that's the case, I may grab a falling tight end. I'll certainly load up on the running back value, even though I have a ton here. I love the late running back value, which we'll go through in a second as well. So that's my roster. You can see it here as well. Let's also take a look at the board as a whole. So, yeah, running back heavy for me, not necessarily the way that I typically go. But you really just need to take the value on the board. If you look at the board as a whole, most people in the first 4 rounds only had 2 running backs. A few teams, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 had 1 running back, and one team, Team 12, had 0 running backs. That's why running back value fell to me. And I was just scooping up value at that point. Again, when we don't have to worry about the number of, like, for example, we don't have a 3 wide receiver league. I don't need to smash wide receiver, and we're at PPR. The value is in healthy running backs if they stay healthy. So I was happy to soak up the value there. Then at the 5'11", 602, Jameson Williams and Jalen Waddle. We talked about the Dolphins. Terrible on defense. Offense was in shambles last year. But then they jettisoned Jonnu Smith. Darren Waller is not going to step into the Jonnu Smith role. He just came out of retirement. He is a good player. He'll be fine, I think. But I think you can cut Jonnu's targets in half or more and put those to Darren Waddle. So you got 117 targets to Jonnu last year in Miami. So we have 60 targets to give away. Yeah, they'll go to Devon Achane, but I expect them to go to Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. And if you're asking me or anyone at the FFU, if you prefer Tyreek Hill at the 3.7 or Jalen Waddle at the 6.02, roughly 3 rounds of difference between them and ADP, we are all very happy with the Jalen Waddle value. Evan Ingram, the potential to be the number 1 target on Denver. I'll take that all day. I think he's easily the number 2 target there. And Egbuka, he will be the number 1 target for the first month at least. Chris Godwin still going ahead of him in drafts. Chris Godwin's health is the concern. I love Emeka there right out of the gate. And if he's that good, if he's as good as everyone is saying he is, including his quarterback and his coach in camp, he's absolutely going to tear things up. Justin Fields is Anthony Richardson, except assuming health, he has, safety in the fact that he is going to be the starter in New York. New York should not have playoff aspirations. I don't think Tyrod Taylor is going to get you there. At this point in his career, it's Justin Fields or bust, in my opinion, in New York. So he's got that job security. Now all he has to do is stay healthy, and he's a back-end QB1 at least. If he can get the ball to Garrett Wilson and Mason Taylor more than we expect, Breece Hall in the passing game, Justin Fields has the potential to be a mid-range QB1 for you. Drake May, similar situation. Josh McDaniels' offense, we know he runs. We know he's going to run a little less because he's focused on kind of distributing the ball. But Travion Henderson brought in to kind of fill that James White role. Pop Douglas, who I did take in the 12th round here, filling that Edelman, Wes Welker, high volume slot option role in New England. I absolutely love that for these guys. So I'm very happy with my team. B+, A- in terms of how I'm feeling about it. Let's talk a little bit and get into some of these questions here that you guys, Shimi, appreciate you. Thank you so much. Jamie, taking early quarterback and early tight end. Let us know what you think. He thinks he has one more flex. We'll go through Jamie's team first, and we'll do it in just a second. Hunter has a question. In a 10-man PPR, do you go Gibbs over Lamb because of position scarcity? No, I don't do it in PPR. Look, 10-man's a little bit different. I guess, Hunter, it depends on what you're starting, right? If you're starting 3 wide receiver, then it's definitely Lamb for me. If you're a 2 running back, 2 wide receiver kind of setup with maybe a flex or 2, I'm still going Lamb. I love Gibbs. I'm knocking him down slightly because of the lack of Ben Johnson. Johnny Morton, who's going to be in there and taking over and was in the building all last year and the year before, I think maybe 3 years now. The new offensive coordinator there running the show in Detroit. David Montgomery should see less work. That work should go to Gibbs. But I'm a huge Jameson Williams believer. We're hearing all the hype about JMO as well. He's learning to run a complete route tree. He's the most explosive guy in the league at this point. In my belief, he's certainly top 3. Maybe you want to throw Achane or someone in there like that. But Jameson Williams, I think, is going to have a monster year. And I love his value. Amon-Ra is still Amon-Ra. And Sam Laporta, I'm fading Laporta right now, but maybe Laporta comes on. Jared Goff is heavily involved in the short passing game. And it's good for everybody there. The problem is you have, a condensed amount of targets in a condensed part of the field, right? You have Gibbs, who's running short to intermediate, mostly short. And in the flat, you got Laporta. Similarly, although he's running a little bit more intermediate, but you got Amon-Ra, who runs those, JMO catching screens. So I'm fading Gibbs slightly, a couple of spots, 2 spots maybe, but one of those spots is taken by CeeDee Lamb. So I'm definitely taking CeeDee Lamb. I love the addition of George Pickens for the CeeDee Lamb. I love a healthy Dak Prescott. I love the lack of a running game. I love Micah Parsons holding out. All of these things I love for CeeDee Lamb's fantasy value. I think Dallas is just going to have to chuck the ball 40 times a game. Give me all the CeeDee Lamb. It's close, but give me CeeDee Lamb. 1301, Jamie's picking Cedric Tillman. We'll talk a little bit about Tillman, but let's get to this Tyrod question. Oh, knee scope surgery today. That's probably going to keep him out a couple of weeks. I'd be interested, Shimi, to know how long they're projecting him out. I would imagine they'd say he'd be ready for the start of the season, but of course, as a backup quarterback, you don't necessarily need him there. He's probably having this scope as a precautionary measure just to kind of prepare himself at the same time. I think that bodes well for Justin Fields. Justin Fields in the 9th round is absolutely insane. I really think so. This was a couple of, maybe a month ago or something. There was a bunch of charity leagues that were kicking off. So the Scott Fish Bowl was one of them. The JTT Cup was another one. And I was doing 3 or 4 or even 5 of these leagues all at once about a month ago with industry sharps. And the industry sharps there were all taking Justin Fields in the 4th and 5th round. Every single one of them. Then he dislocates a toe, is out for 2 days. And all of a sudden he's an 8th, 9th round pick. Now that of course corresponded with everybody coming back and being like, what? Justin Fields, he sucks. Justin Fields is, Anthony Richardson light in that he's not a great quarterback, but if he's on the field, he's going to run. He's going to pile up fantasy points. He's a cheat code. Both of those guys are guys that I'm happy to take at value. Ready for week 1. No surprise there. But it is a good point that, they're not necessarily going to be in a rush to get Tyrod on the field if things go wrong for Justin Fields. Tyrod would certainly like to have a month or more sat on the bench while Justin Fields and the Jets do well. Let's talk a little bit about Jamie's team, and then we'll get to his comment here. So Jamar from the 1, Jamar Chase, Jonathan Taylor, Lamar Jackson, DJ Moore at the 4-12. DJ Moore is a polarizing player, but I really like the fact that he's faded this far by the majority of platforms and fantasy players. It doesn't make any sense to me. Other than the comments of Ben Johnson, 3 months ago, not liking the look of his attitude on the sidelines last year. Of course, when Shane Waldron was in the building, and then everybody, of course, was fired there. And they just really just had a mess of an offense. Yeah, of course, DJ Moore is frustrated. Of course, he wasn't, playing hard. Apparently, Shane Waldron wasn't even meeting with Caleb Williams to go over film on a regular basis. So DJ Moore is an insane talent. We know what he can do. Should he finish above DK Metcalf, Cortland Sutton, Devonta Smith, Devontae Adams with the Matt Stafford concern, Mike Evans, Rashee Rice on a suspension, he should not be going there. We'll talk about that in a minute, Shimi. Yes, I think he should be. Will he? I don't know. A lot of people are in love with the idea of the emergence of Rome Odunze. I do enjoy Rome Odunze too, but I think we're discounting the intense and immense talent of DJ Moore. The 4-12, I really like that. Laporta at the 501. Laporta is not for me. It's because I'm super high on Jameson Williams. I think that eats into Laporta and not Amon-Ra. Amon-Ra at the 106 isn't for me. I prefer him at the 110 or even the 201, 202. That's where I love the value of Amon-Ra. It depends who you're drafting with. You may not get him there. I'm not fussed about getting him in drafts this year. I want all the Jameson Williams I can get at cost. But because of that, Sam Laporta, I'm fading at cost. It's just a little bit too much for me to pay. Jerry Jeudy is a guy who's an incredible ADP value. We saw what he can do. Will Flacco be in? Will Shador look great against NFL ready week 1 defenses, or whenever he gets in week 10, who knows? Maybe. But I think Jerry Jeudy is just a talent. It's hard to ignore him. And at the 6'12", you shouldn't be ignoring him. That's a great pick there. Caleb Johnson, the 701, he's walking into a workload. Josh Downs, 812. Yeah, I don't love Downs. He's got the Zay Flowers problem to me where he's all over the field and, he gets a lot of those short to intermediate errors, but both of those guys are complete receivers. The problem is they're a little limited in their offense. With Downs now, he's got the Tyler Warren problem, but he's 3 rounds later than Zay in terms of ADP. Zay at the 5'9", Downs at the 8'12". So yeah, at that value, why not? Jaylen Warren to stack with Caleb Johnson. I like it. Ray Davis as well. They should take a little bit off of I'm blanking. James Cook's plate, but I don't know if they do. We'll see. Dylan Sampson, super value pick, and I love JJ McCarthy. I don't love JJ McCarthy as much as I love Kevin O'Connell. All the weapons there in Minnesota, and if you're taking Cedric Tillman at the 1301, not my cup of tea. I just think the quarterback situation is just so fucked up over there in Cleveland that I'm concerned about it, especially with 2 Cleveland guys on your roster. But I love a lot of these picks for Jamie. Jamie is a sharp guy, been on the show before, will be on the show again. Jamie, when you have time, let me know. I'll give this about a B, even a B plus. I prefer different tight end, but to go Lamar and Sam Laporta early and still get the value that you got, I love that. Let's see. Shimi, let's go over your team now since you are here. From the 108, you got Malik Neighbors, Devon Achane, Garrett Wilson, Rashee Rice at the 4-5, James Conner, TJ Hockenson, Roma Dunze, Matthew Golden, Jordan Mason, J.K. Dobbins, Caleb Williams, and Trey Benson. Let's start from the bottom because I love these picks. First of all, waiting on quarterback at the 11:08, getting Caleb Williams. I think that's fantastic value. Now, I prefer Dak Prescott at over Caleb Williams, but I do think Caleb Williams is set up for a monster season. Will it be this year or next year is really the question, but I don't buy into these like he can't hit a net reports. I saw the video. It's fine. I also saw the video where, 5 days later, he dropped down in a joint practice and slung its sidearm around a defender to absolutely nail a guy 15 yards downfield. So Caleb Williams, I think, is a talent. He just needs to hone it. So I love that value there, even though I would prefer Dak to Caleb, but hard to argue that. Trey Benson at the 12-5 is probably the best pick of the 12th round. Don't be afraid to reach for Trey Benson in the 11th round. Everyone is saying he's the RB or he is co-RB1 in Arizona. So very happy with that value there. J.K. Dobbins, he's not for me. I'm an RJ Harvey fan, but if you look 4 rounds later, Harvey at the 6'3", Dobbins at the 10-5. The Dobbins value is where you want to be living. It's hard to bank on RJ Harvey in the 6th round. I usually don't. So the Dobbins ADP is more favorable there. Love that value. Jordan Mason at the 9.8, another great value. Should be splitting work with Aaron Jones. All the reports from the team and from beats seem to indicate that's the case. Matthew Golden, Roma Dunze, who we talked about with the Dunze and Golden both throughout the show. I love the values there on those guys. They have the potential to explode. Will they in year 1? It's a bit of a risk. I prefer guys who are a little bit more settled. So we talked about Golden or Steph Diggs. I had the choice of Golden or Egbuka. I just like the situation a little bit better for those guys. Even for Pearsall, Golden's probably at the bottom of that group of Egbuka, Pearsall, Diggs, and Golden for me. But it's hard to argue with him. I really liked his tape coming out. He looks like a very, very good receiver, and he should be the number 1 right away, especially because that team will not play Jaden Reed a full complement of snaps. Roma Dunze, love the talent. Think he's great. Again, is it this year or is it next year? What's happening with DJ Moore? I still think he's the one. Where do Luther Burden, when healthy, and Colson Loveland fit in year 1, year 2? Those are my only concerns with the Dunze. Again, the talent is not a concern. TJ Hockenson is really my only issue here at the 6'5". I much prefer to wait around and get a Mark Andrews and Evan Ingram or a Travis Kelce type. Hockenson, I think there's a lot of mouths there, and JJ McCarthy, I'm not sure he's feeding all of them. So I think Hockenson is a little overpriced. But James Conner, great value. Rashee Rice, with the suspension looming, Jordan Addison got 3 games, or I believe it was 3 games. So we're expecting more for Rashee Rice and his transgressions. 4 to 6 games is kind of the expectation of many around the industry. I would bank on that. I'm banking on 5 games right now, and that's pushing Rashee Rice for me to undraftable territory because he's going in the 4th, 5th round, and I'm not willing to take him until the 7th if he falls that far. But Garrett Wilson, Achane, Neighbors, heavy volume, great players, explosive. You hope that the Wilson Fields connection is enough for him to truly ascend. I really like this team. This is an A- team for me. Lots of guys that I love with lots of upside. A couple of things here. Yep. Going to take Egbuka instead of Golden. Yeah, it's tricky, right? So let's talk a little bit more about those 4 guys real quick. You see Addison here, no, with the suspension, and of course JJ ahead of him. So Addison is kind of undraftable for me at the moment, although I love the player. Again, I don't think JJ McCarthy is feeding much more than Aaron Jones at value, Jordan Mason, who I expect to get a ton of work in the run game, and JJ, Justin Jefferson. I think TJ Hawkinson takes a hit. I think Addison takes a hit, and with the suspension, no chance I'm drafting him. Deebo Samuel is, pick your poison here with Deebo. I ended up about 6 weeks ago now, I think, drafting Godwin and Samuel from the 12 spot in the Scott Fish Bowl. I'm regretting it a lot. At that point, I don't think they had mentioned the second surgery that Godwin had in the offseason. I think that news came out a few days later. So regretting that, would have preferred Egbuka, but hey, you can only go off the info that you have at the moment. So yeah, when you're talking about Godwin, Samuel, Addison, or Downs, those guys are no's for me. So we're talking about Egbuka, Golden, Pearsall, and Diggs. Yeah, Egbuka is number 1 for me. Diggs, Pearsall, that's really a toss-up. It really just depends on what you think, but Diggs is the clear 1 for me in that New England offense. I love it. I just think that Douglas is going to get the closer to the line of scrimmage volume looks. This is like a Wan'Dale, Malik Neighbors sort of situation. I don't think Douglas is going to have the extreme inefficiency of like 141 targets and 700 yards or anything. But I do think Stephon Diggs is, Malik Neighbors light, and Pop is Wan'Dale heavy, whatever that means to you. But no, Diggs isn't going to do what he did previously because he's aging out. But will Ricky Pearsall be able to kind of ascend? We'll see. So I'd probably rank it Egbuka, Diggs for safety. I think he's healthy. I think he's the 1. Pearsall, we don't know what's going on because that San Francisco room just isn't healthy. So he's my 3, and Golden is my 4, but it's damn close. Like I don't have a problem with you taking Golden there at all. Appreciate you, Shimi. In SFB, Portland Trailblazers, well done. I am in the London Monarchs division. I'm in Amsterdam, went over to London, which was an awesome experience, and drafted with all those guys and met those guys at the live. So that was very, very cool. But yeah, same to you, man. Good luck in those. Let's just take 2 minutes and just go through some of the values that I really like on the board as they stand now. And I just need a drink for 1 second here. And we'll stay away from my team. In the 5th round, if I'm not getting JMO, I'm getting Travion Henderson at the 512 is a ridiculous value. I can't pull the trigger when JMO's on the board, but if JMO is gone, it's Travion Henderson all day. Drafted to fill the James White role in a quarterback who's impressionable in a Josh McDaniels offense, who is being taught to check down, who is telling reporters that he is going to run less. That's because they have a legitimate weapon out of the backfield who is going to be his safety blanket. Hunter Henry became that kind of at the end of the season last year, so that rapport exists as well. I don't think Hunter Henry is going to really push for fantasy, stud viability. He can be, a solid tight end 11, tight end 12 by the end of the season, but those aren't the guys we're looking for when we're drafting tight ends. We're looking for the guys who can really pop. One of those guys, I think, is Travion Henderson at the running back position. I much prefer him over RJ Harvey at the moment. Mixon as well. Yeah, so forget that. Another value that we need to talk about is DeAndre Swift. The Chicago Bears backfield, we talked about the passing game situation for them, but the backfield in Chicago is really a situation where, look, last year we were like, all right, DeAndre, Ben Johnson's in town. He had DeAndre Swift years ago, and he shipped him off to Philly, whatever his involvement was in that situation, we knew that he wasn't necessarily in love with the fit of DeAndre Swift. Jahmyr Gibbs comes in and, all is right in Detroit. Swift goes on, has a great season. I don't think he had two. I think he just had one in Philly. Then, moves over and signs with Chicago last year. Had a pretty good season, but every single person expected the Bears to go get their guy. Are they going to get Genty? Are they going to get Hampton? They passed on all of these running backs and got Kyle Monangai in the 7th round, and they're stuck with Swift, with Roshan Johnson, and with Kyle Monangai. Monangai, I think he's a fine dart. I think Roshan, nobody's really talking about him for this season, I think for good reason. But, you could throw that dart at the end of drafts, but Swift at the end of the 6th, early 7th, I've seen him. He's just the only guy back there. Catches passes. Caleb Williams is sending Ben Johnson offense, which is going to scheme guys open. I really think DeAndre Swift is an awesome value there. Tony Pollard right next to him as well with the Tajay Spears injury. He's someone I wasn't interested in before. Spears now down, should be ready for week 1, but we'll see. Tony Pollard, I like his value as well. We do need to talk about JSN. We haven't talked about JSN today. There's nobody else in Seattle. Arroyo is going to take his time. AJ Barner is fine. But Jameson Williams that was a Freudian slip there. Jackson Smith and Jigba is being moved all over the field. He's getting targeted from all over the field. He is the number 1 guy for Clint Kubiak and that offense in Seattle. And look, I believe and hope that Kenneth Walker is going to be healthy, but healthy Kenneth Walker historically is a 14-game guy, right? He's probably going to be banged up and off the field. And then Zach Charbonnet steps in great. But that being said, Jackson Smith and Jigba really is going to be the engine that runs this Seattle offense. Arroyo's taking time to ramp up. Cooper Kupp is not what he was. So it's really JSN or bust in the early 3rd. Yeah, I'm smashing that all day. Happy to. Over Trey McBride, maybe not. Those two I love. And then let's give you one or two here at the end before we wrap up. Warming up to Keon Coleman, especially with the Khalil Shakir injury. Keon Coleman is a capable receiver. He's a good dude. He's liked in the locker room, which goes a long way. He has the potential to be on the field a lot, and he's a very, very good contested catch guy. The question is, how much volume will he receive? Is he just kind of stepping into this sacrificial Gabe Davis type role while, Kincaid, who didn't do it last year, Shakir, Elijah Moore, and James Palmer, who are now in Josh Palmer, who are now in town, kind of run all over the place. And of course, James Cook. I don't know, but I think, finding out on Keon Coleman is at that price point, 11.6. Why not? But I would take Rashid Shaheed over him. Horrible situation at quarterback in New Orleans, but everything else there is bad too. New Orleans is going to have to throw the football. Rashid Shaheed is an absolute stud. And if they can just find ways to connect with him, he can really get it done for you. At the running back position, I already mentioned Trey Benson. Love it. Jaden Blue at that cost. Why not take a shot? Tank Bigsby is my guy. I haven't talked about Tank, but Tank really is the 1A here. He's kind of the Bucky Irving light, right? We're going to go ahead and translate the Jacksonville Jaguars offense from Liam Cohen's Tampa offense last year. He's Bucky Irving-ish. He's Bucky Irving light here because he's more of a runner than a receiver, but he'll get some receiving opportunities. But we know Bigsby is not necessarily known for his pass catching. That's where Travis Etienne comes in. I really think Etienne is going to be on the field a ton, but he's going to be used more so in passing situations that limits his overall volume. I think these guys are 1A, 1B, no matter how you slice it. But Bigsby is the guy who is going later. So that is the guy that I want at cost. I'm trying to see where Etienne went, but I can't find him on the board at the moment. Travis Etienne typically goes 2 rounds ahead of Bigsby. So if Bigsby went at the 10-2, Etienne's been going in the, there he is. Yeah, he's at the 807. So look, I like both of these guys at cost. I love Travis Etienne at cost. But if I can't get him, I'll absolutely get my hands on Tank Bigsby. That offense is due for an ascension. Travis Hunter, Brian Thomas Jr., Brent Strange is fine. De'Ami Brown now in the fold. So I really like Jacksonville and what they're doing there. So that was a lot. Shimi, thank you. You're awesome. we mock every day. I should be doing it at the same time. The problem is I have some guests joining me. I believe Ryan Prosek is going to be joining me tomorrow. So it's going to depend on his schedule, but it's every single day between noon and 4 p.m. Eastern. We're mocking for the rest of August. If you like this stuff, you can find all of this in a playlist on YouTube. If you go to the Fantasy Football Universe, the FF Universe over on Twitter, it's in a thread pinned at the top. Every single draft that we've done here for Adjust the Ranks for the Fantasy Football Universe, myself for most of them, but of course, S.C. Romero jumping in, Spencer Buckley jumping in for a few of them. I think Mike's been on one or two. Jesse came on one with me as well. So we have some guests jumping in. It's just myself sometimes as well. But yeah, we're doing this every single day to get you prepared. But also, if you follow along on Twitter, we're always kind of dropping at least 30 minutes before, if not an hour before, we're dropping the link to join the mock. So that may be more important than most other things. And then Shimi, you can also jump into the Fantasy Football Universe Discord here, just like anyone else who happens to be watching. Please do so. We would love to have you. Jump right into, if I can get this, what am I doing here? I'm a mess with technology. You can jump right in the Fantasy Football Universe Discord. The link is in the chat. It'll be in the description over on YouTube as well. I think we have a link tree up on our Twitter too. So just jump in there, talk ball with myself, with a bunch of other guys who know what's up. S.C. Romero and Spencer Buckley of the Devi Planet. We have Dynasty Dogs, Rich and Mike of the Dynasty Dogs. We have Jesse Moeller and more. A bunch of content creators and guys who just love talking ball over there in the Fantasy Football Universe. And use promo code FFU for a 100% first-time deposit match up to $25 on Fast Draft. If you haven't tried it, and you can Fast Draft in your location, it is an excellent tool. I wish I could use it over here in Amsterdam. Unfortunately, I cannot. So, Shimi, we appreciate you. Thank you for the time. Thank all of you for joining us. This has been Adjust the Ranks. I am Jeremy Schulman, and we will see you next time.
Mock, yeah, ing, yeah, bird, yeah, 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 mockingbird.